Is it just me, or was that Cardinals win on Tuesday way too intense to just be the middle of May? That's what the calendar says, but for the Cardinals, it felt like a pivotal win. We'll talk about it coming up on Be Safe Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of Be Safe Daily. Brendan Schaefer here with you. It is the early morning hours now of Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, as we break down a Cardinal winner on Tuesday night against the Angels. West Coast trip, another late night game, and another gritty win for your St. Louis Cardinals, who are now winners of 3 in a row after the 7-6 victory on Tuesday night. It honestly didn't feel like it was going to be as difficult for the Cardinals on Tuesday as it ended up being when the offense got things cooking relatively early and you knew you had Sonny Gray on the mound. Those are two factors that usually give you quite a bit of confidence, but it ended up being a grind to the bitter end as the winning run for Los Angeles, for the Angels, was at the plate there in the bottom of the ninth inning, but only because of a fluke comebacker to Ryan Helsley that he wasn't quite able to corral and record an out on. It's the only reason there was a base runner against him. He was nasty. Jojo Romero was gutsy as all hell. And Sonny Gray, despite giving up a home run in this game and having some real issues with 2 strikes, which we'll talk about, he got the Cardinals through 6. He had 9 strikeouts, and the offense, for the 4th consecutive game, racked up a double-digit hit total as they dispatched the Angels 7-6. By no means was it perfect for the Cardinals offensively, still going through it a little bit when it comes to those woes with runners in scoring position. 2 for 15 with RISP on the night for the Cardinals, but they ended up getting enough of those big hits when they needed them. How about Pedro Pages? We'll talk about the first career Major League hit for Pages. Got the start at catcher tonight and ended up playing a really nice game for the Cardinals, both offensively with the big 3-run double that he recorded, as well as his job behind the plate. When Wilson Contreras went down and I started thinking about Ivan Herrera and his trouble throwing out base runners and the fact that the Cardinals have at times, before the Contreras injury even, used Pedro Pages as a late-inning defensive replacement for Herrera, I figured that the day would come before too long that they would give Pages a start behind the plate, and he certainly was up to the task in the way that he performed on Tuesday night. Some key blocks behind the dish defensively and the big play offensively that snuck a ball inside the third base line for a bases clearing double that got the Cardinals really going there in the third inning. Cardinals led this game 5-0, and it needed to be a come from behind effort as the unlikely scenario of Sonny Gray being spotted a lead but giving it up ended up coming to fruition for the Cardinals tonight. Offensively, though, there were some unlikely heroes that are continuing to make a name for themselves. How about Alec Burleson? 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, 2 runs driven in. The big home run that he hit there in the 7th inning off of a left-hander, mind you, putting the Cardinals back on top after Sonny Gray allowed the 5 runs to put the Angels back even with the Redbirds. Alec Burleson now for the season, 743 on the OPS. That might be tops on the team now with the injury to Wilson Contreras. I don't know that there's anybody active that plays consistently that has a better OPS than Alec Burleson, which says more about where the Cardinals are at than it does maybe about where Alec Burleson is at. But that being said, 743 is at least respectable, and it's a number that's been creeping up higher and higher recently as Burleson has continued to swing a pretty good bat. I know that some Cardinals fans aren't sold or hadn't been sold on Alec Burleson. Maybe a night like tonight helps you get into that position where you're feeling better about him being a prominent hitter in this Cardinal lineup. But he has done a nice job for the Redbirds this season and getting better and better of late. Last 7 games, the slugging percentage up to 750 with a 375 average over that stretch. And you can parse it out to the last 15 games in which he's participated. Batting line of 286, 300, and 531 on the slug. So an 831 OPS over his last 15 games. If you want to stretch it even further than that, the OPS over his last 30 games is over 800. As Alec Burleson turning into, I don't know if it's safe to say, a middle-of-the-order threat. That's kind of where he's batting for this Cardinals team. He was the designated hitter tonight and batting fifth in the lineup, but he was certainly the Cardinals' most productive hitter. A 3-hit game for Burley. Cardinals had 12 hits on the night. They did strike out 14 times. And still something that I think is going to be a long-term concern was that Nolan Gorman was heavily contributing to those K totals. 4 strikeouts for him. Goldschmidt had 3, although Goldschmidt did go 2 for 5 at least. But it sure feels like a challenge right now to get a handle on what this Cardinal lineup is offensively. We know that they have struggled tremendously prior to the last handful of games, and there is nothing to keep them from turning around and maybe dipping back into that valley. But the vibe around the team does seem to be a lot better right now, and you're getting things like Kyle Leahy picking up his first major league win last night, and then Tuesday you get the first big league hit for Pedro Pajes. So that's consecutive nights with the laundry cart situation going on. The cold shower, they're spraying beer on the rookie player that accomplished something of a milestone. And honestly, anytime these guys are asked about it, they don't really even know what all they're being sprayed with. Beer, ketchup, mustard, whatever they happen to have in the clubhouse gets doused onto the player in the cold shower, throw them in the laundry cart, spin them around. That's sort of the tradition. And to have that 2 nights in a row, that can't hurt. That can't hurt for a team that's been trying to dig itself out of a hole. Cardinals have won 3 straight. They're at 18-24 now on the season. Still tied for last place, but only a half game back of third. So the potential to jump over a couple of teams in the Reds and the Pirates still exists within, the next day that theoretically could take place. So Cardinals fans, how are you feeling right now about this team that, 3 days ago they certainly felt down and out? And it's not that the standings are all too dramatically different than they were, but for a team to be able to win some games and win the way that the Cardinals are winning right now, I do think there is something to be said for that. So let me hear it in the comments section. I know that yesterday's podcast, I put in the title asking the question, has the offense turned the corner yet for the Cardinals? And people commented and said, no, just one game. And that's true to an extent. You do like now that there's been another example of it, the Cardinals scoring 7 runs on Tuesday, and for the 4th consecutive games, a double-digit hit total. Now, they haven't had a ton of issues getting guys on base and putting them into scoring position. That's happened frequently enough during the drought for the offense. It has been more of a problem converting those guys in scoring position into runs scored. And tonight, again, it was not all sunshine and roses going 2 for 15 in those runners in scoring position situations. But with the Pajes hit, bases clearing double, that was obviously one of the hits the Cardinals had with Risp. And Burleson's big 2-run shot was not a batting average with runners in scoring position boost, but you can be on first base and you're in scoring position if Burleson is swinging the bat like he was tonight. So really good to see. He also had a double to his credit. Alec Burleson pacing the Cardinals offense, rookie Pedro Pajes doing the same. Is this something that can be sustained by the Cardinals longer than just a couple of games? I don't know that they turned the corner officially with the big outbursts that they had in the game on Monday. I don't know that Tuesday is any more indicative of the idea that the Cardinals might actually be coming around offensively. But the more they're able to stack up these types of games in a row, the more I would start to say it lends credence to the notion that they could be doing exactly that. Look, when the Cardinals started this season, when Game 1 in Los Angeles was set to begin, I don't think anybody would have looked at this lineup and said it's a bottom 5 lineup in Major League Baseball. It's what they've been for this entire season to this point. If you add up the numbers and you look cumulatively, that's what the Cardinals have been. But if we would have universally agreed that they weren't going to be that to begin the year, then there is some reason to believe that they could end up emerging from this very, very dormant period and turning themselves into a passable offense. Now, I think we've seen enough concerns to have skepticism over the fact that the Cardinals can just simply flip a switch and become the top 10 offense that we all kind of thought they needed to be when the season began if they were going to be competitive. But to at least be a passable offense that can come up with some timely hits, that can come up with some big situations a couple times per game, as you could argue the Cardinals did tonight, it ended up being enough. And I think most of the time that you have Sonny Gray starting for you, you're not going to need 7 runs to win the game. But this was an example where the Cardinals did need that, and A lot of stuff happens in the middle innings that causes this game to be thrown into turmoil a little bit. But ultimately, for the Cardinals to come away with the win, I think is a sign of progress. It's a sign of a step in the right direction. But let's not make more of it than it is. I'm going to continue to say that for the time being until the Cardinals can rattle off some more wins to basically erase the 7-game losing streak that they had right before this winning streak began. You lose 7 in a row, and then you win 3 in a row. It's easy to feel good about the 3, but that's still a 3-7 stretch. The Cardinals don't need to be thinking about that in their clubhouse. They just need to be thinking about what happens next and moving forward. And I have no doubt that they're going to do exactly that. Really what they needed this win streak for, and other than the obvious, to sort of staunch the bleeding and keep up in the standings a little bit, they really needed this just to be able to, and I know some Cardinals fans in my comments on YouTube are not going to like this, but they needed it to sort of lift the fog of the notion that everything could come crumbling down. For as much as you may not think Ollie Marmol is a good manager, and you may not think that he should be the manager for the Cardinals moving forward, I personally, again, you're not going to agree, I don't think that the Cardinals resorting to having to fire Ollie Marmol would necessarily be a good thing for their ability to compete in 2024. Now, if you're a Cardinal fan who's out there and has already sort of given up on the notion that they could contend this year and they could find themselves digging out of this hole and back toward competitiveness, and whether it's contending for a wild card berth or even a division championship, I still think because it's as early as it is in the season, you're, a quarter of the way through at this point, 42 games played, so a little bit more than a quarter of the way through. It goes quickly, but by the same notion, the Cardinals are not mathematically out of anything by any stretch of the imagination, and if this is the type of offense that they're going to be able to provide more frequently, you can see a path toward them kind of clawing their way back into this. Again, I continue to harp on the wild card teams. The Braves and the Cubs are looking like they're in a good spot to be able to make a wild card, but 3 teams in the National League are going to get one. And right now, the third team with the best winning percentage for that spot is Mike Shilt's San Diego Padres, and they're a sub-500 team. They're 22-23 at this point. Cardinals are 18-24. That's a difference of 2.5 games. So they're within shouting distance at a minimum. And if they can start to play like this more consistently, you'll feel good. Now, we'll continue to talk on Be Safe Daily about the things that could come up and become problems for the Cardinals again, or maybe the things that are still problems for them now. And I was asked, Sonny Gray, what do we make of his outing from tonight? Is it a concern now that he's had 2 in a row where he's gotten beaten around a little bit? ERA, which was once so sterling, has now over the past week increased to 3.05, which isn't bad, but it's not the ace level, just dominating number that Sonny Gray was able to boast, 6-7 days ago at this point. 6 innings, 8 hits allowed, 5 runs. They're all earned. He ended up walking a couple of batters as well. And it's a shame because he started off really, really sharp at the beginning of this game. Sonny Gray ends up with 9 strikeouts, had 2 in the first inning, and got through the first on 7 pitches. And I thought, okay, this is the Sonny Gray that Cardinals fans are used to seeing, not the version of him that gave up 3 home runs to the Milwaukee Brewers last weekend. And he was cruising along toward that end at the beginning of this game, but just ran into trouble. And it was that 4th inning in particular where I think Sonny Gray very uncharacteristically made a few mistakes with 2 strikes. And the home run that he gave up was a 2-strike pitch that's normally attack mode. That's normally Sonny Gray looking to get some chase. And for whatever reason, he was just a little bit too careless with the location on his 2-strike pitches in that frame, and the Angels made him pay for it. The RBI base hit by Shanwell was right up the middle in terms of the pitch location, 94 miles per hour, fastball, kind of toward the upper third of the strike zone, but dead middle, and a pitch that Major League pitchers are able to do something with that they can anticipate, and that was a 2-strike count. Same thing with the Logan O'Happy home run, was 93 right in the wheelhouse, middle in, and drove it to the pole side, left center field for the home run that suddenly made this game a lot more interesting than I think Cardinals fans thought it was going to be. When you get that Pages double and it's 5-0, that felt like a knockout blow at the time, especially with the way that the Angels have been playing. We saw another error from them in the early innings tonight. Michael Ciani, he put the ball in place similarly to how Brendan Donovan did it on Monday night. ground ball infield into the third baseman and just throws it away. Cardinals score another run. That was back in the second inning. So the Cardinals taking advantage of their opportunities there early. Put the ball in play. Good things can happen. You have Michael Ciani ultimately stealing at least one base in this game. He ended up with two. No, he had one. Goldschmidt had one. Mason Wynn had a stolen base. The Cardinals were running on the Angels. They were aggressive. It was actually a really exciting brand of baseball to watch and encouraging that the Cardinals would be able to set the tone the way that they did early on in this baseball game. This is what you're supposed to do against teams that look like the Angels out there. The Angels are not a good team. They're not a crisp team. They might have some situations going on in that clubhouse. I got to find it for you because the audio from Ron Washington, the manager of the Los Angeles Anaheim Angels, I just don't even know what to say about his commentary after an eighth-inning suicide squeeze bunt did not go the direction of Los Angeles, and it completely bailed out the Cardinals and Jojo Romero. Jojo was up the creek without the paddle there in the eighth inning. He had a pitch clock violation on a 3-2 count that caused ball 4 because the runner was, I think he was paying a little too much attention to the base runner on second, who was doing the little things, right? Like I just kind of made fun of the Angels and said they haven't been very good at doing the fundamental things, and largely they're not. But that was a moment where you'd like to just be able to ignore the runner. Understandably, though, JoJo is locked into a tight spot there where he's trying to keep the lead for the Cardinals. Pass the baton to Ryan Helsley, which has been as automatic as anything in baseball this season. When you go into the ninth inning, Ryan Helsley pitching, and you've got a lead, you're probably going to win that game. That's typically been the way that it's gone for the Cardinals this year. So JoJo is just riding the rail, trying to figure out a path through this, and just an absolute gift falls into his lap and into the St. Louis Cardinals' lap, as with the left-handed swinging Luis Guillorme at the plate. It's a lefty-on-lefty matchup. Ron Washington decides to pull out the old bag of tricks and go for the suicide squeeze in that spot with the bases loaded at the time. And it didn't work out. The pitch was way off the plate. And it's just one of those things that's pretty risky when you consider that JoJo had put himself into a dicey situation by walking a batter on a pitch clock violation and then walking Noah Shanwell, which was a competitive at bat. It's not that he was extremely wild, but he was just off the plate and wasn't able to find the zone. So it's a pretty gutsy call to say, hey, bases loaded, 1-1 count, and a guy that has walked 2 in order to load the bases. We're going to go with a suicide squeeze here. And JoJo throws a pitch that's a foot and a half off the plate outside. I don't think they keep saying Guillorme handles the bat well. I'm sure he does. That's not an easy pitch to bunt when it's a foot and a half off the plate. If you're using your brain and you're down by a run, there's only 1 out in the inning. I mean, this was crazy. 1 out in the inning, bases are loaded. A double play is the only thing that screws you into oblivion, and I get it. Ron Washington ended up saying that was what they were looking to avoid, and I am going to play the Ron Washington clip because it is one of the most jarring things I have ever heard a Major League Baseball manager say in explaining a moment that happened in a game that didn't go his team's direction. Just incredible, incredible content, and we appreciate Ron Washington for providing it, but I'm just still wanting to set the scene here to demonstrate just how, I say gutsy, but I guess it's only gutsy if it works out. Because it didn't, I think it qualifies more as like batshit. Pardon my French, but I just don't really know what else to say. It's a 1-1 count. It's the bases loaded. You got 1 out in the inning. You get a fly ball to the outfield. You tied the game. You get a walk, which he's already provided 2 of them to you this inning, Jojo Romero has. You've tied the game. So in that situation, there's no way in the world that Guillorme, who has a pretty good idea of the strike zone, is going to be offering at that pitch unless the runner from third, Zach Neto, is streaking toward Pedro Pages with him just waiting to tag him out. It's a 2-1 count if you just play it straight up. It's a hitter's count. It's a situation that's going to favor Guillorme because of how rocky that inning had been to this point for Jojo Romero. Like, again, if you're paying enough attention to the runner Neto at second base that it costs you a pitch clock violation walk on a 3-2 count, and look, Ollie Marmol didn't argue it. You could just see the look on his face was, Yep, he got on that one. He wasn't ready to throw the pitch because he was too focused on what was happening behind him. Jojo Romero was ripe for the picking, and what bad baseball teams do is they let you off the hook in those spots. It gave Romero some confidence that they got basically a free out, and then he was able to wiggle out of the jam there shortly thereafter by finishing off Guillorme and striking him out, a task which was made much easier by the fact that a pitch that should have been ball two ended up being offered at and missed for a bunt attempt for strike two. Just an absolutely massive gift that the Cardinals, I mean, we're talking muffin baskets, should be sent to the Angels clubhouse tomorrow afternoon to say thank you for that one. But my goodness, Ron Washington didn't see it that way. He didn't see that this was the bold and risky and gutsy and, the other phrase that I used to describe it, decision that it ultimately was from the manager of the team. Here's the explanation from Ron Washington about the failed suicide squeeze. Get a load of this because it's one of the craziest things we'll hear a manager say all year.
Blame Guillorme, missed it, but why did you want to call for that?
Lefty on lefty. I didn't sink a ball left-hander. I didn't want him to hit into a double play. He can handle the bat. He didn't do the job. It wasn't anything I did wrong. He didn't do the job.
Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. It wasn't anything I did wrong. He didn't do the job. Oh, my goodness. In the comments, the firestorm, the social media, it is ablaze as a result of Ron Washington's commentary. Look, Ron Washington's old school. We know that about him. I mean, that is throwing a player under the bus and taking no accountability whatsoever as the person who called for the unnecessarily risky play, if I've ever seen it. Again, I understand you don't want the double play in that situation. I just think you have to trust the guy who you just said could handle the bat to put the ball in the air. That's what you're aiming for in that spot. Yeah, JoJo's going to try to keep him on the ground. Honestly, JoJo's going to prefer a strikeout because if you can avoid it with the bases loaded, you'd like to not have to put the ball in play at all in that spot and try to get the strikeout, and then any kind of out's going to allow you to get out of the jam. They can move the infield back to a normal depth, all of those things. You made the job so much easier on JoJo Romero and the St. Louis Cardinals. It's not Guillorme that did it, though. It's Ron Washington. That is one of the all-time gaffes in terms of making a decision and then absolutely hiding under the covers to say, oh, no, I didn't do anything wrong. It was him that didn't do the job. You saw the pitch, Cardinals fans. Like, I know we could be objective. Cardinals fans are good about being objective when it comes to, I know this isn't your team that made the mistake. Ron Washington is out of his mind for this comment. I got to play it again.
He can handle the bat. He didn't do the job. It wasn't anything I did wrong. He didn't do the job.
Oh, it's so good.
I would have rather went to the ninth inning with a 6-6 lead.
Yeah, I bet.
Than went to the ninth inning the way we did.
Okay.
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out because you made a decision that in part cost your team a chance to come back in this game. I mean, that just, let me hear it. Sound off in the comments below. Now that I'm getting this deep into the podcast, I might put that as the teaser at the beginning. Oh, man. I don't know. I might just need to make a separate video about it tomorrow because it's so damn funny. Ron Washington, the gift that keeps on giving. We won't spend too much extra time on this than we already have. But that was a pivotal moment in this game. Again, JoJo was on the ropes, and he got a gift. He got a gift. It was an objectively bad decision by Ron Washington. When you consider that he wasn't throwing strikes, he had walked 2 in the inning, infield is in. How many times have we seen the Cardinals get burned by the ground ball that they might even be looking for with the infield in? And it squeaks through and ends up leading to a crooked number in the inning. I don't even think there's, and there are some people out there, I like what Ron Washington said. Players need to be held accountable. You got to be joking. If you watched the play and heard the comments, there's no way you come down on the side of thinking that Ron Washington nailed it. And he was holding players accountable. That's a joke. If that's the way you manage, you're going to lose that clubhouse so quickly. And he was endearing earlier in the season when he did it to Joe Adele. I think people largely around baseball thought, hey, this is a young player who has not panned out to his prospect status, Joe Adell, and he made a boneheaded base running gaffe. And Ron Washington was a little bit more gentle, I think, in the way that he delivered that criticism. But he said post game, that's not a situation that we can have, and tried to steer Joe Adell back on the right path. I don't know that it's worked. He's played some decent baseball this year, has had some nice power numbers. But there was nothing subtle about it. And to me, Ron Washington was 100% in the wrong, just objectively wrong. But the Cardinals aren't complaining about it. They're glad it happened, because I don't know if JoJo Romero escapes that inning without getting a little nudge in a favorable direction like he did there. Bases loaded, one out. Even if you get the ground ball you're looking for, you just never know what could have transpired if not for that play. So the Cardinals are going to take it. They're going to thank their lucky stars that they've won 3 in a row now. And, they won the Sonny Gray game. It's not the way that they thought they would have been able to. I remember yesterday, I said it either on Be Safe Daily or maybe it was on the big show on KTGR, that maybe with Sonny Gray going, if you can get the offense once again performing like they did on Monday, putting up some crooked numbers, maybe you can get away with not needing Ryan Helsley for a second consecutive win. And then obviously you'd be able to use him on Wednesday heading into the off day Thursday. Now we'll see if Ryan Helsley ends up being available nevertheless for Wednesday's game. Hopefully Kittredge would be. I would be skeptical over Romero's availability after he threw 31 pitches tonight. Helsley only threw 18, but that's getting up there a little bit. It wasn't the most hyper-efficient outing because of that base hit that was credited on the comebacker. So it took a little longer than you wanted pitches-wise for Helsley. We'll see who ends up being available, but the Cardinals did dig a little deeper into their bullpen tonight than you might have thought when they took that 5-0 lead. Is there concern about Gray? I guess I'll cover that before getting into a little bit more about what I want to say about the offense and what they did against Reed Detmers, because yesterday I harped on it, saying the Cardinals need to do better against opposing starters, and to their credit, they were able to do some of that tonight. But are you worried about Sonny Gray? Commenters, let me know in the comments section if that's something on your mind. Guy had 9 strikeouts. He made a couple of key mistakes in situations where you really don't want to see it. But if anybody's going to go back to the drawing board and react differently and execute differently next time in the crunch time, in the clutch, when you do have a 2-strike count, you maybe have a little bit more room to play with, the margin for error. I think he's going to make some different pitches and call for some different pitches in those situations next time. I just think Sonny Gray's too good not to take an experience and learn from it. And I thought it was interesting, too. Rookie catcher, he called a good game, but he said after the fact that he thought on both parties they should have done something different there on the pitch to Ohapi in particular. He said, I should have called for something different, and Sonny, from his side, probably shouldn't have let me call for it. Probably could have shook me off there. 93, middle in. Not sure if that ball was a 2-seam or a cutter or what it was supposed to be doing, but it just found way too much of the plate. And they could have been a little bit more selective, I think, with the pitch selection in that spot. So, no, I'm not really overly worried or concerned about Sonny Gray. Yes, it's been a couple of outings in a row where the long ball has haunted him, but I think all in all, he's going to get the benefit of the doubt from me for the time being, unless it becomes more of a trend. It's 2 in a row. We're going to watch to see the way he comes out next time. But he was sharp today, made a couple of mistakes, and had a couple of pitches he would have liked back. But 9 strikeouts, was sharp, was very efficient as well. I mean, even after he got roughed up and the game ends up being tied 5-5, he's still going out there and covering more innings for the Cardinals, getting through the 6th because the pitch count was so low. So there are definitely some moments that he would have liked back in this game. But because I was asked the question, I wanted to address it. No, I would say not too concerned all in all when it comes to Sonny Gray and where he's at. ERA is a little elevated, little inflated, but it is what it is. I think he's going to bounce back, and Cardinals can just be grateful that they won a game here where Sonny Gray was not at his best. There are going to be days where he is at his best, and the Cardinals aren't going to have to work nearly as hard to get those wins. But today they did, and it all worked out. It was a true, intense, ride-the-rail game. I said off the top, it didn't feel like a May game. It feels like there's so much more at stake with each of these pitches in a closely contested Cardinals game at this point in the year. Because, again, maybe they aren't now. And from my stance, I never said they should be considering or executing, rather, the managerial firing. But it certainly seemed like there was something in the water over the weekend where these last 3 games maybe don't go the way that they do. There could be a completely different situation going on. I think right now, you're a team on a 3-game winning streak. The Cardinals are probably, even if John Mozeliak really thought to begin this LA series that he was about to have to press that button and launch the nuke, I don't think that that's something that's imminently about to happen as long as the Cardinals keep up the way that they're playing. We'll see. I've been wrong before, but that type of environment, playing tight, not being able to have fun with it, not being able to feel like you can play loose because you might be about to get your manager fired with your poor play. It's not a good environment for anybody. So that's why I say, look, it's a very, very good thing. It should go without saying, but enough Cardinals fans have said, I root against him. I want him to lose so that we could have a regime change. Fan how you want to fan. To me, that's a little bit backwards. I think it's good for this team to be able to have the success the last few days that they've had. Now you have to go for the jugular, though. This is a Los Angeles Angels team that stinks. Let's just be honest. They're not very good. They don't have Mike Trout. They don't have a lot going for them. They're calling up guys from Double-A who are hitting 091 and sticking them right into the everyday lineup. Seriously, the kid Kyron Paris, that's exactly what he was. 091 hitter at Double-A. I don't know why they called him up. They did, and he's playing now. I don't know if that's like your way to tank. Nothing against the guy. Maybe he's got a bright future, but he was hitting 091 at Double-A. So it is what it is on that front. Cardinals need better version of Lance Lynn tomorrow. They just need him to throw more strikes. This is a big game for Lance Lynn. He's not been able to traverse very deep into games because he's not been able to throw strikes consistently enough to this point. I still am a Lance Lynn stan in terms of I thought it was a savvy signing. I thought there are elements that he could bring to this club that it was missing last year. And look, he was the guy out and proud a couple days ago saying, everybody needs to calm down. Like, yeah, we're playing bad, we're losing, but that's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy if guys are playing tight and guys aren't playing loose and able to treat this for what it is. It's a game. And he had that commentary. I don't know how much that was just what he said to Jim Hayes on the pregame show versus what he was consistently saying to the other guys in that clubhouse, in that room. But I did think there were some elements of Lance Lynn and his personality that you introduce that to this team, it can change the clubhouse around compared to the way it was last year. Now, on the field, he's going to have to do a little bit more in terms of a strike percentage. I believe he's right around 60% for the season on strike throwing, but we have seen, and that's not really a great percentage. You'd rather see him closer to 65. But there have been some games recently, the game against the White Sox, where he was closer to 55, 57%. The prior game against the Mets, I think he was right around 60% this last time out. Working too many deep counts. Walks have haunted him. He's had consecutive walks in 4 straight games. 3 of the 4 games, he walked at least 3 batters. For him to be at his best, hopefully the stuff is in tune, in sync, where he's able to consistently pound strikes and find a way to get deeper than 5 innings. He has not recorded an out in the 6th, but once this year, back on April the 16th against Oakland. Every other game, he has failed to record more than 15 outs, and he only recorded 14 the last time out at Milwaukee. So that's the task before Lance Lynn, especially with using Helsley and using Romero, riding him pretty hard in this one. You had previously ridden Kittredge pretty hard. Fernandez pitched in this game. John King pitched in this game. Cardinals are going to need a good, solid 6 innings from Lance Lynn tomorrow. They're also going to need the offense to do more of what it did today. My criticism when I posted the podcast after Monday, and the question was, has the Cardinals offense turned the corner? And everybody commented, no, they haven't. And I'll try to do a better job of this too, not taking the comments too personally. You guys are talking about your team. I will try to recognize that it's not about me. I went back and forth with a few people. And look, when I'm wrong, I'll tell you I was wrong. And today I was wrong on that. So that's that out of the way. But when it comes to the Cardinals and what I did criticize about yesterday and why I said, look, good start. Scoring 8 runs in an inning is great. Scoring 10 in a game is great. But I would still say they have to be able to do it against opposing starting pitchers. It's just been a bugaboo for this team. And I looked up the stats again today for the KTGR Big Show on Tuesday when I say today. Cardinals were dead last in batting average and OPS across Major League Baseball in innings 1 through 5 coming into play on Tuesday. They've got to be better against opposing starters, and that is what you want to see a hitting coach do. That's what you want to see a hitting coach bring to the table. Turner Ward, the rest of that coaching staff, putting together game plans and saying, here's how we're going to attack this guy. It's not a surprise. You know who's starting. They listed in advance. It's incumbent upon that hitting coaching staff to put together a game plan and then for the players to execute it. Did a much better job against Reed Detmers and the Angels in that regard on Tuesday. Detmers gave up 5 runs, 4 earned. You got the break in the second inning where they threw a ball away. 5 innings pitched, gave up 8 hits, did strike out 7, struck out the last couple of batters that he faced, walked a couple, but the Cardinals were able to get to him. They got 10 base runners against him in 5 innings, and they were able to capitalize and allow half of those 10 base runners to cross the plate against Reed Detmers. They scored over multiple innings. You score in the second, you score in the third. You'd like to be able to add on even beyond that, but they took advantage of their shots, and they were able to stake out that lead as a result. And then to be able to add on against the bullpen, you scored in 3 of the 9 innings. I would say that should be the minimum that you'd hope for on a given day. But when each of those 3 innings produced a crooked number, you end up with 6 or 7 runs. That's going to be the ticket. That's going to be where the Cardinals need to live. And you find a way to have a little bit more luck with runners in scoring position. And I won't say luck. I'll correct myself on that. Perform with runners in scoring position. They were 2 for 15 today. Still room for improvement in that regard, but seeing a lot of good things from this offense right now. Continuing to attack the opposing starter is going to be the key. Lance Lynn getting deep. Got to get 18 outs from him on Wednesday. 8 o'clock start time, local time here in St. Louis. And if they can do that, if they can get to the opposing starter, if Lance Lynn can get through 6 for him, and then you just figure out a way through the rest of that game, bullpen-wise, like Helsley threw 18 pitches. As long as he comes to the ballpark on Wednesday feeling okay, I think that is a guy that you should be willing to use because you know the off day is coming on Thursday. Go for the jugular. Cardinals need this sweep. It ends up being a bit of a letdown. You can go and win the series. That's great. But how many times have they gone into a third game of a series with a chance to sweep and they haven't been able to do it? It's been a few times this year, and it really sort of decreases the benefit of the good baseball that you just played over the 3-game set. Because you lose tomorrow, 18-25 is your record. You win, you're at 19-24. You're 5 games below 500 instead of 7. It's a big swing. It's against a team that you should be able to beat. The Angels have been absolutely pitiful in home games this year. I think they're down to a 5-16 record at home. The Cardinals need to go for the jugular. Offensively, I think that the group that they have is starting to come alive a little bit and might be able to facilitate that. Lance Lynn just needs to do his job. I think quality start would be enough. 6 innings, 3 runs. We'll see if he's able to produce that. We'll see if the lineup is able to do what they did to Detmers against Griffin Canning on Wednesday. Cardinals fans, let me know what you thought of the Cardinals game on Tuesday. Let me know what you thought of this podcast. Let me know what you thought of Ron Washington's comments as we continue along here, covering the Cardinals on a daily basis on B-Shape Daily. I will add this note again. I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the pod, but I'll continue to talk about it. YouTube memberships are now live, so if you would like to become a member of this channel, there are various perks involved. The second tier of the membership is going to allow you access to a private chat in Discord. That's something that is still a work in progress. If we get enough people interested in actually participating in that, then that's when we'll really be able to fire it up. But I've got the link ready for you for anybody that wants to sign up. So had a couple of people sign up for the first day. Shout out to Justin G and to my guy Damien, who is the one that kind of convinced me to do it in the first place. He said, look, I think some people would like this. I know I would like to sign up and be able to support you that way. So get it going. Well, I did. And we have the YouTube membership live. So especially when we do live chats and things like that, members will get highlighted. There's a bunch of other perks. The link is in the description to this video. So check that out if you're interested. Yes, I will continue to talk about it. I know sometimes people give me some grief and say, oh, you're just, it's a commercial for your channel when you talk about that stuff. Yeah, I know. That's kind of the whole point of me doing this. If I was doing it for free, I would not last very long. So I am really trying to build up something unique that Cardinals fans can enjoy on a daily basis. There are other podcasts out there, and I enjoy them myself, but I'd like to think that what I am able to provide can be a unique thing within the Cardinals coverage landscape. And if you appreciate that and you want to be on board as a channel member, well, that would be just spiffy. I would think that's great. So that's going to do it, though, for this edition of the show. Always reach out if you have questions or comments for me at bshafer12 on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for being a part of it and for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on B Shafe Daily. Peace.